and 5. Heinicke in trouble again. He's able to escape. Keeps the play alive. Runs for the first down. Dives for the pylon. Is he in? Is he in? Yes! Touchdown! What a run! What a play by Heinicke!
Every time I see highlights from that 2020 season, it's just so weird. That was a playoff game and nobody was there. Good morning, everybody. This from our friend Sabah via DM on X. She sent this to me very late last night or early this morning. I saw it very, very early this morning. Actually, I saw it very, very early this morning. Didn't sleep very well last night. I don't know why. But that's not your problem. That's mine. Kevin, she wrote, please do not eulogize Taylor today. You never gave him credit for any win. Don't have revisionist history now. When I read this very early in the morning, my jaw hit the ground. My heart jumped into my throat. I immediately went to social media thinking, oh my God, did Taylor Heinicke pass away? Fortunately, and very quickly, he's alive and well. He just announced his retirement. Sabah, that was not very nice, the way you put that. And remember when Michael Scott hit Meredith in the parking lot and he walked in and he told the office, really sad news, Meredith got hit by a car. She's at the hospital. I talked to the doctors and they don't think. And then he said it in a way in which it sounded like she had passed away. And then he said, but it's just a pelvical fracture. I think that's what he said. Yeah, don't do that, Sabah. I had not seen the news yet that he had retired, and that was jaw-dropping in the moment. Rookie minicamp begins today. Dan Quinn will speak at 1 o'clock, and it looks like a few players will speak afterwards. I'm assuming Chris will carry the coach live, or at least give you the highlights of it on his show. The NBA playoffs moved along last night with, once again, James Harden completely unaware that he's actually in the playoffs, playing the games as if they are regular season games. That sport is completely different in the postseason than it is in the regular season. And at 36 years old, he has not figured that out yet. Joe House from The Ringer, my good friend, will join us at 10:35. We'll talk about a lot of things, NBA included. Ben will join us at 12 in the midst of rookie minicamp, and we will talk about a number of things, including maybe Stephon Diggs. By the way, Juwan Jennings signed with a team yesterday, not his last team and not this team. He signed with the Minnesota Vikings in just a 1-year deal. So it didn't really turn out for Juwan Jennings, I don't think, the way he had hoped free agency would turn out. But I think Minnesota got themselves a really good player, and a player that fits with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to a certain degree. Their issue, of course, will be at quarterback, and will Kyler Murray be a guy? Diggs and Ayuk are still out there. Diggs available. Ayuk at some point likely available. And then, of course, we have Taylor Heinicke, who retired from the NFL yesterday, and he put out a statement. For 25 years, I had the pleasure to play this great sport of football. It has taught me a lot, not only about myself, but about my life as well. Many ups and downs throughout the years, but the ups outweigh the downs tenfold. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would have been able to live this life. Thank you to all who have supported me in this journey. Thank you all who have believed in me, and thank you to those who gave me the opportunity to live out my childhood dream. And one big thanks to Sabah from the Carolinas. Dr. Sabah, thank you for your support. Excited for this chapter of my life, and always go Skins. He did not actually thank Sabah, but he should. And he should thank a lot of people. He had quite the resurrection and then quite the run. I mean, it's a great story. I love the way, by the way, at the very end, and always go Skins. Nice job, Taylor. Appreciate that. Look, no need to eulogize Taylor Heinicke. He's alive and well, and he's only 32 years old, and I'm sure he's very healthy. And by the way, he's very, very smart. He will have quite the life and maybe even a bigger and better opportunity after this run as an NFL quarterback, where his visibility personally, obviously, increased. But he is, a quite a financial and math capable person. I'm sure he will go into the financial sector, I'm guessing. And I bet he will be very successful, because the thing that you can say about Taylor Heinicke more than anything else is that he believes in himself and he's fearless. Fearless. Because he's not a starting quarterback and was never a starting quarterback in the NFL talent-wise. I think most people thought that, but I think a lot of our fans thought he was actually going to be the answer. Like you could build a team around Taylor Heinicke and win a lot of games. I never thought that, which is why Sabah is taking a shot at me, or took a shot at me very early this morning. I never felt that, but always appreciated and respected what he was. What he was a total competitive gamer. I mean, and a guy that could really, really play with zero fear and took risks and didn't mind taking risks, because for him, what did he have to lose? You know who was the guy that really believed in him and gave him the opportunity? Was Scott Turner. Scott had been with him in Carolina in 2018 with his dad, and he really liked Taylor Heinicke. And when they ran into the quarterback problems in 2020, he's the one that brought Taylor Heinicke in. He's the one that convinced Ron Rivera and anybody else, the Marty Party, to bring Taylor Heinicke in. And we know what happened. He had that opportunity on a Saturday night in January of 2021 to play in a playoff game in front of no fans against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. I'm sorry, in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he played the game of his life. The game of his life. Threw for 306 yards and a touchdown. Rushed for a touchdown. We'll never forget that play. That's the play that we came in with. And he kept them in that football game. Now, he needed, by the way, the quarterback that is currently playing and the quarterbacks that played last year, he needed some defense, because they didn't have any defense in that game. They gave up over 500 yards of offense, remember, in that playoff game in 2021, January of 2021. Literally, the Patriots, man, does anybody else do that with Brady? The Buccaneers rolled up in that game 507 yards of offense. And in that game, Chris Godwin had 5 dropped passes. They scored 31 points, rolling up 507 yards, and their second best receiver dropped 5 passes in the game. 5. That is not an exaggeration. I'm looking at the actual box score. I remember 5 was the number of drops. He was targeted 12 times and had 5 catches in the game for 79 yards. Can you imagine if he just dropped 3 instead of 5? It probably would have been another 50 or 60 yards of offense and more points. I never felt about that game, the day after, in the moment, the day after, the months after, the years after, as certainly the effort by Taylor Heinicke and the team, I think, has been described in a way that wasn't necessarily accurate. Not about him. He was awesome in the game, and the offense was awesome in the game. He had 306 yards passing, 46 yards rushing. And they were, incredible, on third down in that game. I'm going to say that they were probably somewhere right around 45% on third down. They were 50% on third down, 7 of 14 in that game. But that game never actually felt winnable because they couldn't get a stop. They had that opportunity. They cut it to 2 at the end of the third quarter, 18-16, and you're like, hey, oh, okay. Then it's, 21-16, 28-16, 28. They just couldn't get a stop. Kind of the way, we felt about the Philadelphia NFC title game. But Taylor Heinicke in that game was awesome. And that was really, without question, his best football game. I thought he did a really good job as sort of a game managing quarterback in 2021. You know, they ran the ball during that stretch when they won 4 games in a row against Tampa again. They had Tampa at home and beat Brady and the Bucks that particular day, and then went on to win 3 other games. The Raiders were involved. Seattle was involved. I'm forgetting what the other win was. I'll pull it up here in a second. 2021. Carolina. He was excellent. Didn't hurt the team. Made the throws that you needed to make. They ran the football a lot during that stretch. They actually played pretty good defense during that stretch. And then COVID hit. The COVID absences hit. COVID had already hit, but all those absences hit, and they were without key players. And he didn't play well either down the stretch, but they were missing players. It wasn't necessarily his fault. Remember the Deron Payne, John Allen blow up on the sideline in that Dallas game, and they ended up losing. But that football team, and I've had Scott Turner on the show a few times, and he's talked about that 2021 run. He's like, we were playing good football. Like we knew what Taylor's limits were, and we were, coaching and calling around those things, and we were running the football. Antonio Gibson was good. McKissick was good. And then remember in 22, look, this was a football team at the end of the year that at one point was 2 games above 500 in December. But they had those big games against the Giants. And they were not great games for the team and for the offense in particular. They ended up tying the Giants at the Meadowlands. They ended up losing on that Sunday night at home. They needed that game against the Giants. Of course, there was a controversial ending. There was certainly some interference in the end zone on that 4th down throw. And then they got blown out at San Francisco. And Taylor did not play well in that game, turned it over a few times. And they went to Carson Wentz for that final game against Cleveland. And one of the things we've learned about that particular moment is the team preferred Taylor Heinicke, much preferred Taylor Heinicke. That's who they wanted to play that game. And he didn't. And Carson Wentz played the game, and they ended up losing and being eliminated from the postseason. And then we know what happened that final week of 2022 when the story goes that Taylor Heinicke was going to start that game, but he actually recommended to Ron Rivera that Sam Howell get the opportunity to start that game. And of course, Sam Howell came in and threw for a whopping 169 yards, and he was ordained as the next reverend at quarterback for the next year. Those were wild quarterback days. I mean, we were in the wilderness, but he was an absolute competitive gaming, bright light during those years. I just never really thought, and I think most of you probably felt the same way, but I know a lot of you didn't. I just never thought I never really wanted to invest in Taylor Heinicke as the starting quarterback for the future. Great and very effective backup quarterback in the NFL. Super, super happy for him that he got that opportunity. And I think it probably, not that he wasn't going to do well professionally post-career, post his college football career and the limited NFL career he had, but no one had heard of Taylor Heinicke prior to coming to Washington. And that one season and that one playoff game certainly elevated his overall, awareness and profile. Good job here. And I know a lot of people really enjoyed some of those games and some of those days. But it really goes to show you just how hungry we were as a fan base for anything that gave you a chance to at least be competitive. Remember Alex Smith quarterbacked that game at the end of 2020 to get him into the postseason to win the division at 7-9 in Philadelphia, where the Eagles literally tanked in the second half, pulling starters in the fourth quarter, pulling Jalen Hurts, putting in Nate Sudfeld in the fourth quarter to ensure that they didn't lose ground from a draft standpoint. Washington won that game, and Alex Smith basically was, he limped to the finish and probably shouldn't have played that game, and then was ruled out of that playoff game the following Saturday night. But Taylor Heinicke, he will be, guys like him are the guys that end up being wildly successful. Not going to surprise me to look up 10 years from now and see him running a company or running a hedge fund or being very, very successful in whatever he does. Who knows? Maybe he'll end up being a media person. I don't think that that's his calling, but maybe it is. All right. Joe House is going to join us at 10:35, to talk some NBA, and we'll talk some NFL with him. But I do want to talk about the NBA games last night. The Lakers are complaining at a level that is just completely outsized. It does not match what I'm watching on the court. And James Harden, I'm sorry, man, the most joyless player in my NBA watching days over the last 15 years. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
Yeah, I mean, I sarcastically said the other day they were the most disruptive team without fouling. I mean, they have a few guys that foul on every possession, and all the good defenses do. SGA gets like I don't even know, a touch foul, I guess, on the drive. There was a stretch where 4 straight possessions, our guys got absolutely clobbered trying to make an entry pass to Jackson, and Jalen Williams is grabbing his jersey with both arms. That's a turn. They're hard enough to play. They're hard enough to play. You've got to be able to just call it if they foul, and they do foul.
JJ Redick last night after the Lakers actually had a lead in the third quarter, had a 1-point lead at halftime at Oklahoma City. They lost by 18, 125 to 107. A lot of complaining about the officiating from the Lakers after the game in this one. The OKC Thunder have a 2-0 series lead. In this postseason, they have played 6 games in every single result with the exception of one. They've been double-digit wins. They had a 9-point win in Game 4 against Phoenix on the road, 131 to 122. I've said this already a half dozen times. I don't see anybody beating them 4 out of 7. Now, if we get a Minnesota OKC Western Conference Final, OKC will win that series. If we get San Antonio, it's going to be intriguing just because of what Wemby is. But nobody in the East can win more than a game, maybe 2 in an NBA Finals matchup. Although I did think that last year in Indiana forced a 7th and deciding game. But lots of complaining about the officiating. So I watched this game. Anthony did as well, start to finish. And there were a lot of missed calls against LeBron in particular. LeBron had a layup in the first half on a drive where he got smacked upside the head after the shot, left his hand. Should have been an and one, wasn't called. He had a clear continuation 3-point play opportunity that was called on the floor, and the shot was disallowed. I don't know if LeBron's a guy that has gotten fewer calls than any other star player, but this is what JJ Redick said about LeBron's history as a star and the whistle he gets.
Well, he gets clobbered on that one, with Jalen Williams coming over trying to block the shot when he spun baseline on Dort. That was in that stretch as well. LeBron has the worst whistle of any star player I've ever seen. I mean, I've been with him 2 years now. There's, again, the smaller guys, because they can be theatric, they typically draw more fouls, and the bigger players that are, built like LeBron, it's hard for them. But he gets clobbered, and he got clobbered again tonight a bunch, and that's not like a new thing. That's not specific to this crew or, this series. He gets fouled a lot. That doesn't happen. I mean, guy gets hit on the head more than any player I've seen on drives, and it rarely gets called. So,
that last part when he said the guy gets hit on the head more than any player I've ever seen, for whatever reason, that really struck like as true with me. But I think a lot of them do get called. Look, when Redick said, I've been with him 2 years now, the smaller guys, because they can be theatric, they typically draw more fouls. And the bigger guys that are built like LeBron, it's hard for them. LeBron is a big guy that's theatrical. I mean, LeBron's been theatrical throughout his career. LeBron's been trying to sell calls and bait refs into making calls since he was 19 years old. I mean, nobody has gone down more often in what appears to be like tragic pain more than LeBron has during the course of his career. He is a soccer flopper and has been pretty much his entire career. Now, I don't have the data on, LeBron versus other superstars, versus Kobe, versus Michael, versus Magic, Bird, et cetera, in terms of calls. Superstars have gotten calls and gotten the benefit of a kind whistle once they're established as true superstars since the time I started watching basketball. Okay, so, and for all of you, the same thing. Has LeBron, during the course of his career, gotten fewer of those superstar calls, of those superstar whistles? I mean, maybe the Ringer, maybe we'll talk to Joe about this. Maybe he's got some data that says it's true. But if it is true, nobody in terms of the superstar players has baited and flopped and been more theatrical over the course of their superstar career more than LeBron. Now, LeBron just played his 300th playoff game last night. That is unbelievable. And LeBron looks great right now. I mean, it is amazing to me at 41 years old. I said this last year and maybe even the year before. I think in some ways he's gotten better. Like, he's gotten better as a shooter, as a three-point shooter. I know last year or 2 years ago when I first started to kind of notice how he was improved as a shooter, he looked bigger and stronger. You know, some people are suspicious about that. I'm not. But LeBron at 41, my God, is he good? I mean, he'll never, for me, be in front of Michael or Magic. It's just not going to happen unless he goes on to win. If he were to go on and beat this team down 2-0, this would be his all-time achievement. It's not going to happen, but it would be his all-time achievement. And he's played very well in these first two games. But let me just say something about last night's game. If the Lakers had gotten every whistle, they weren't going to win that game. Now, they were in the game. They were in it, and it was almost as if Oklahoma City was toying with them a little bit. And when it got kind of tight and they got down a few points in the third quarter, they turned it on, and they had an unbelievable run, and they put the game away in the third quarter. By the way, without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the floor, they made a big run. SGA's had 2 back-to-back very ordinary games for him, and yet they've won going away. Covered the number, by the way, twice. Could LA steal one at home? Maybe. I doubt it. I think it's one of those things where you're going to get a lot of bettors that are going to say, ooh, they're going to get all these calls in game 3, and they were close. And what's the number? I don't even know what the point spread is tomorrow night. I'm going to guess that OKC's 7 or 8 after being 16. They're 8.5-point favorites tomorrow night on the road. Yeah, I would not bet the Lakers plus the points personally. But LeBron did get clobbered last night a few times without calls. And, JJ Redick's not wrong about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He is very gifted at drawing the foul. It's a big thing in the NBA's. All of you know who watch the NBA, sort of entrapping the officials into making calls. It's happened for a long time now. But the Lakers have no shot. No shot. Can you imagine, by the way, if Luka was playing in this series, the complaining from him? I mean, he's the all-time serial complainer. Now, I would not call him a flopper, but he's the all-time, literally, he is the all-time in-game complainer of officiating, to the point where he's probably cost his team so many points over the years on defense because he's still complaining on the offensive end. But can you imagine how much complaining there would have been last night had Luka played? And by the way, I do not think the Lakers would have had a shot even with a healthy Luka Doncic. Now, I got to mention real quickly, and we're going to bring Joe House on here in a moment. I've said this for, 5 years running, at least, that James Harden, for me, is the least enjoyable player of the superstar scorers in the game to watch. He's just joyless. I've said this over and over again, and I just cannot believe that this man at 36 years old has not figured out yet that there's a different level of intensity in the postseason than there is in the regular season. He is way too casual with the basketball to play in the postseason and be effective. And his career has reflected that. Last night was his 30th career playoff game with more turnovers than made field goals. 4 turnovers last night, 3 made field goals. Now, you can say, well, it's because he handles the ball so much. And, well, being ball dominant, it does lead to more turnovers. Especially if you're going to be as casual as he is with the basketball. He had a terrible turnover late. They had the ball down 6. They still were in it last night. And he just did the thing where he's trying to split, a double team with a casual open dribble, lost it to the ground. He's terrible to watch this time of year. With that said, I guarantee you, one of these 2 games this weekend, He'll go for 35 plus and they'll win one of the two games. But they're not going to win a title. No one's ever going to win a title with James Harden as one of your two best players. Just will not happen. When they made that trade, Anthony, with the Clippers, I said on this show, I'm like, first of all, I was surprised the Clippers made the trade because they were playing very well. They had started to play very well. Now, they were led by Kawhi in their sort of resurgence after a terrible start. But I said there's no way that this is an upgrade for Cleveland. Who thinks that adding James Harden puts you over the playoff top if you've been paying attention over the years? Nobody. Joe House from The Ringer next. Good thing about having Joe House on the show, we can talk about the NBA playoffs. We can talk about our football team. We can talk draft lottery. We can talk golf. We're going to try to do all of the above. Joe House from the Ringer Podcast Network, Fairway Rolling Golf, Ringer Gambling Show, NFL and NBA, every other Ringer podcast he can do and be a part of. He is at House from DC. For those of you who don't know, Joe lives here and is a big DC sports fan. So I'm going to start with football, and then we will go to the NBA playoffs. I asked this question yesterday for phone lines, for phone calls. There is a national perception of Washington entering 2026 as probably not going to be a great football team. You know, all of these all too early power rankings have them somewhere between 19 and 26. Their over-under in Vegas is 7.5. That's sort of the bottom third of the league. Why do you think the expectations of this team outside of this market, and people inside this market, some of them don't have high expectations or have limited expectations, but why do you think, you know, national outlets, including the one you work for, are down on Washington?
I think because of the giant uncertainty around just how improved is the defense. And, you know, the stat that came out over the last couple of weeks of Washington's performance with Jaden Daniels at quarterback, outstanding record when the defense limits their opponent to 24 points or less, horrendous record when the opponent scores more than 24 points. And this is basically a fresh start defense. It's personnel-wise, 10 new starters. Maybe that's overstating it, but in the neighborhood of double-digit new starters. And with that giant question mark, coupled with, I know you did the mock schedule. I'm curious to hear how many wins when you went through it. It's a tough schedule. It's a tough schedule, Kev.
Yeah.
So
I'm into the mock schedule,
like
Joe.
To me.
Yeah, I'm into mock scheduling pretty much just for the bit of it for many years now. I think it's always hard to predict a schedule. The NFL changes so much year to year that sometimes you think it's much harder. But on paper, you're right. I mean, based on projected win totals, I think it's the 8th toughest in the NFL heading into it. I think you really hit on something that, for me, is the number one mystery. Despite a coordinator change on defense, and I don't know if it's 10 new starters, but it's 6. You know, it's certainly 5 or 6 with another 2 or 3 contributors. You don't know how that will come together. It looks better. It would be hard for them to be worse than they were last year, but you don't know. And it's hard to win 10-plus games with the worst defense in the NFL.
I think we learned that last year for sure. Coupled with a quarterback that couldn't stay on the field.
Right. That's number one. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I said, Joe, and maybe you and I have talked about this before. There's two things where there's one thing that really irks me about the conversation about last year, and you usually hear it from national pundits, and it's that somehow Jaden Daniels regressed significantly and the team did because they were such a lucky team in 24. My take is, I think the right one, of course, I think that, but they didn't have their best players play for them last year. When you don't have your best player and he plays quarterback play more than 4 complete football games, you're not going to be a good team. It just is never going to happen. And that's why I would look at this team and say, even if I were in another market, I would say, if Jaden Daniels plays football in 2026, they're going to be a lot better. That's the way I would view it.
I completely agree. I mean, the lucky element is they didn't suffer any real meaningful injuries during the 2024 season. And the unlucky version of that is they suffered really impactful injuries on both sides of the ball starting pretty early in the season. I mean, I really can't overstate how impactful the Austin Eckler injury was to what that Washington offensive game plan, the scheme, the way that Kingsbury wanted to run that offense, and what that meant in terms of Jaden's growth. And the McLaurin bit also, you know, those are just two crucial elements not being available at the beginning of the season. And Jaden was in harm's way. And as a result, injuries and on both sides, and they couldn't get out of their own way.
Yeah, QB 1, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, running back 1, D end 1, D end 2, cornerback 1. You're not going to survive a season like that. So I asked you what you thought or why you thought the perception of the team is what it is nationally. What is your feeling about 2026? What's your hunch right now on what the team can be next year?
I want to see what happens at receiver.
Yeah.
I saw you put up the poll of Stephon Diggs or Ayuk, and I was frankly stunned that it seemed like the DC voting public is in favor of Diggs over Ayuk. I greatly prefer Ayuk, and
me too.
If he comes to Washington, then I think that's. I mean, I guess, is Juwan Jennings off the table now?
Yeah, he just signed with Minnesota.
Yeah, so that was the guy that I thought, oh man, I preferred him more than anybody. But I like Ayuk, and if that settles in, then I think this Washington team, I like them for 8 or 9 wins, because you really need some enormous improvement, a radical rewrite. I mean, I can't remember. I had this conversation, I think, with our mutual pal, Ben Standig, and I asked him if on paper coming into this upcoming season, this is the best defense on paper that Washington has had in a decade. And we had to sort of sit down and go through it a little bit, but that enormous uncertainty around defense, that charts the entire course for what this team is capable of.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like I look, in 2024, the defense wasn't very good either, and they won 14 football games, 12 in the regular season. But the quarterback was just otherworldly. We're going to move to NBA here in a moment. But why do you like Ayuk, other than the choice of Ayuk over Diggs, which I agree with, and I said that was my answer too. Why do you like Ayuk?
Verticality and toughness. You know, when he was. Had his head in the right place, and they're, with the Shanahan scheme, had him exactly properly sort of playing the role that he's best at. I think that he and Jaden could get on the same page very quickly, and it takes a ton of pressure off of McLaurin.
Yeah. Yeah, if you got I've been saying this to every the listeners for a while. If you got the Ayuk from 2023, and that's a big if, like he's a legitimate star wide receiver, and the two of them together would be really interesting to watch. But we'll see how that develops here over the next few months. All right, do you think the Lakers are getting a bad whistle, and if so, would it make a difference?
I mean, of all the things to complain about, there was definitely some elements of last night's game where I thought Reeves had legitimate gripes, but that doesn't have anything to do with the Lakers' fortunes against this Oklahoma City team. It's just something to talk about. The big picture with that series is whether the Lakers will be able to win one game, and that would come in the form of 3-point shooting variance. You know, Rui has really been amazing. Yeah. Rui Hachimura, former Wizard.
Yep.
He's found exactly the
Rui
right
and
role.
Denny. Rui and Denny. I mean, wouldn't be bad to have them as mature players now and ascending players.
Yeah, would either one of them have reached the levels that they've reached?
Know.
You know,
you and I have talked
career?
about
Probably
that a bunch.
not. But,
maybe not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But you know, that's the only intrigue that remains with that series.
Yeah. Do you, when Redick said about LeBron that he has gotten the worst whistle of any star player he's ever seen, do you think there's any data to back that up versus like a Jordan or a Kobe or a Magic or
No,
right?
No. We're in that time of season. The coaches have to get on the bully pulpit, start getting the ref propaganda out there. And just, you know, the optimal outcome is they get back to LA. There's, you know, they get a favorable whistle. they steal one of those games and they lose a gentleman's sweep 4-1.
So explain to me, you and I have talked about this, I think on the air and off of it. James Harden for me is the least enjoyable, scoring superstar I've ever watched in my lifetime. I just can't stand watching him play. And I don't understand why at 36 years old, he doesn't understand that the playoffs are different from the regular season. Will the Cleveland rebound in this series? Can he ever lead a team or be the second best player on a team that legitimately contends for a title? Yes or no?
Well, let me answer that question first. The answer is no. We watched it last night, and it was painful. He's washed. I mean, he just isn't physically capable of doing the things. He can't split double teams. No. His over dribbling now puts him squarely in the teeth of defense. And, it is yet another game. And this is just the stat du jour when it comes to Harden, where his turnovers outpace the number of made field goals. And
30.
That is just, it's just, we just keep adding to that total. The tough thing for Cleveland is their best backcourt, their most spirited backcourt is Dennis Schroeder and Max Strus. When those guys are on the floor, they propel a lot of energy. They're a lot more forceful on offense. Cleveland is now 1-4 in games where they've been within 5 points in the final 5 minutes this postseason. 1-4. They've been bad. They've lost the postseason clutch minutes by 19 points over those 5 games. That's because James Harden and Donovan Mitchell are playing iso ball at the end of games.
Yeah.
They're running themselves right into contested situations and either turning the ball over or taking tough shots. Another disappearing act from Evan Mobley last night. 9 points from Evan Mobley.
One rebound.
Cleveland
One
experiment.
Rebound.
I'm sorry to say this. I wondered aloud on a Bill Simmons podcast last week how tough a guy he is. And, he had a couple good games to close out Toronto. But this is just for the level at which Evan Mobley is regarded in terms of impactful front court player. You just can't have games like that he had last night. They were in that game. They had a chance to win that game. That series, really was a jump ball series. Now I think it's over. They're not tough enough, and there isn't anything they can do. They have to not play James Harden down the stretch.
Yeah, you got to take him out. I mean, the casual ball handling, the trying to split the doubles like it's a regular season game. It's just and he's fumbling it all over the place. Even when he doesn't turn it over, it's like he seems like he's on the verge of turning it over. By the way, last night I had this sort of personal revelation when it came to Darren Peterson, Kansas, one of the top 2 picks. I've been trying to come up with the comp for him, and maybe this has already been a comp that's been out there, but I think it might be Cade Cunningham.
Oh, wow. I hope you're right. Let me hear why you say that, because I have one kind of pushback, but I'm interested in hearing the thesis.
Well, first of all, the Darren Peterson saga from this past year concerns me, and it would be a major red flag. And I've read all of the stories about how he was legitimately sick, et cetera. And I don't, I'm not necessarily a believer. I want DeBonsa if the Wizards get number 1. If they get number 2, I want somebody else to take Peterson. But it's the methodical way in which he scores. There's nothing, explosive about it. There's a patience, it's a DeMar DeRozan patience. It's a Kawhi Leonard patience. The Cade Cunningham is probably identical size-wise, aren't they? They're probably the exact same size. Let me look that up.
I think you're right. The only thing about it with Peterson is I've never felt like I've seen him play with the physicality that I felt like Cade Cunningham
But I didn't
had.
think that about Cunningham coming out.
That's what I'm asking. That's why I'm curious to hear. Because he has played with a physicality since he arrived in the NBA that maybe was a surprise because we didn't really see it out of him in college. So you would say, well, Peterson has the same capacity for that same kind of physical play. I just am so impressed with Cunningham's toughness. That's been the number one attribute to me that like really propelled him into the conversation for top 5. He could have made an all NBA first team this season if he hadn't gotten hurt.
Yeah. That's no, as you say that, there's nothing about Peterson that I would put anywhere near Cunningham's toughness, especially what we've seen here this year. And by the way, down 3-1, and last night down the stretch, some of the shots he made and some of the defense he played. I have not seen that in Peterson as a college player, but I remember, Joe, I didn't think Cade Cunningham coming out of Oklahoma State was going to be this. Did you?
Right.
Maybe you did. I didn't see it.
No. And you know, he did start, you know, opening eyes upon his arrival. Even when, you know, early on there, Detroit was still an abomination of a basketball team. He was revealing aspects of his ability to handle the ball, stay on the ball, and not get knocked off of his spot. That was like, hey, this could be something. And here we are with him leading that team to 60 wins. And, you know, they're going to make the Eastern Conference Finals, which is really congratulations to them.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about what's next for them. By the way, it's not going to surprise me if Donovan Mitchell and James Harden have a game at home in which they combine for 75 points and they win going away. In fact, I expect that in game 3. But they're not going to win the series. So you said, congratulations, they get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Does that mean you think the Knicks are there and they beat them?
I have gambled on that.
Okay.
I bet the Knicks to win the Eastern Conference.
What was the number?
Before the playoffs started. But the problem is this OG Anunoby.
Right.
Anunoby. I'm not going to try. This OG injury is really concerning because he was outstanding to this point in these playoffs. He was the most important Knicks player on both sides of the ball. He was knocking down every open look from 3, and he was really the anchor of that Knicks defense. And I think that they caught a good break with him not being seriously injured with his hamstring, but he's got a history of hamstrings, Kevin, and you and I both know guys with hamstrings, it's always a dicey deal.
Yeah.
I mean, just ask Denver and Aaron Gordon about that situation. They're out because Aaron Gordon got hurt. And Aaron Gordon played an equally important role for that Denver team, that Denver defense. This OG injury plus Hart, it seems like, honestly, I would say for tonight, the best thing for the Knicks, just go ahead and you know, play Ole. Let Hart get the rest that he needs. OG is obviously going to miss tonight, and it's fine for the Sixers to come home and get one and just get the rest and see if OG can go on Sunday.
Yeah, he's really, to your point, he's so critical, and he's become one of my favorite two-way players in the league. He does it on both ends, and he's consistent on both ends. I hope he ends up being okay, because I'd actually love to see a Knicks-Pistons Eastern Conference final. In the other game tonight, Game 3 back in Minnesota, I do want to ask you about Denver here in a moment, but what's your take after the first 2 games? Do you give Minnesota a chance in this series or not?
Oh, they definitely have a chance. Yes. It really comes down to how the minute situation with Edwards is going to go, because he's being restricted. That's totally appropriate. But they need him to be a playmaker. They need him to have 5 or 6 or 8 assists to be really effective. The physicality that Minnesota is capable of was eye-opening, I think, for the Spurs. It's like, hey, Wemby, welcome to the playoffs. This is what it's like. They're in you. And Wemby's worst shooting performance in months in Game 1 of this series. It will be a little bit of, it's a bummer that Io is hurt, and it looks like he's probably not going to go. But Terrence Shannon has been terrific for Minnesota. Them at home, I mean, I don't think that there's any issue with the way that they lost Game 2. Minnesota is not, to me, reflective or indicative of what they're ultimately capable of. a lot of pressure on Naz Reid, a lot of pressure on Jaden McDaniels, and Gobert has to stay on the floor for defensive rebounding. It's the challenge for Minnesota is this San Antonio team can score so quickly and in bunches. Like, they just get going. It's an avalanche of buckets, and they can get down the floor in, less than 5 seconds and get something up that's a good shot. They have to have the ability to keep pace scoring-wise, and that's where Gobert becomes kind of an issue. But it's a 50-50 series to me.
Joe House from The Ringer joining us. So I don't know if you felt the same way. I really wanted to see Denver-San Antonio. I actually thought Denver matched up well against San Antonio. But besides that, I said about Jokic going out early against a depleted Minnesota team over the final 2.5 games. I understand Aaron Gordon wasn't playing, Peyton Watson, etc. And I said this before the series. He needs to make another run here. After 2023, we thought it was the first of several to come. And his legacy in that moment when they won that title is he may go down as one of the greatest 2, 3, 4 big men of all time. And by the way, watching him, I feel that way. But it's a sport measured on rings. He's got one, and he hasn't been past the second round since. I thought that was a bit of a hit to potentially his legacy. It's cemented Hall of Fame first ballot, don't get me wrong. But in terms of what we thought at the end of 2023, I think maybe there's a reason not to feel that way anymore. What do you say?
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. As this regular season was playing out, the text thread conversations, when you were sitting back and looking at his offensive efficiency and the 13-game winning streak that Denver ended the regular season on really buoyed the Joker backers. Where are we going to have him in our top 20 all-time NBA, the history of the NBA? Where in the top 20 might the Joker fall?
Higher than top 20 in my text threads. I mean, I think Joker at the end of 2023, we were talking about, is he going to be considered the most versatile, best passing big man of all time? Is he going to go down with Kareem, Russell, Wilt, and Kareem?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge has always been for that history conversation.
Defense.
How can you have him over Tim Duncan, right? How can you get him over Tim Duncan? Because Tim Duncan played both ends of the floor. His defensive
if you consider Tim Duncan a center in the conversation.
No, power forward.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Jokic would be considered in the center conversation.
Okay, sure. I get it. I get the distinction. Okay, fair enough. I was just thinking in terms of your top 12 or so, because you just mentioned, 4 guys that are in the top 8, depending on, how you measure it.
But anyway, his run at the end of the year, which, by the way, he was shooting the 3 well, everything was happening, buoyed the Joker is going to be one of the greatest of all time. And now what are they? Now what are people in your industry that cover this sport very closely, what are they saying about him?
Boy, we got to see something next season. We're on to next season. I mean, he took a hit. It's the inability to have any impact on defense. It can't be the case that Aaron Gordon is that crucial, a linchpin, that in the absence of Gordon, that you can't impact the defensive end of the floor in a more meaningful way, especially against a team that's missing, its best player. So it's definitely the Joker legacy is definitely taken a hit, and it looks like the conversation that's happening in Denver is, it's a radical rewrite of who they're going to be going into next season.
Is he going to be there next season? Could that be one of the July shockers?
You never say never with this iteration of the NBA.
Right.
I personally would be shocked. I would be shocked because he, as much as any other player that we've seen, over the last, 10 to 15 years, it seems like he really loves Denver and has been really loyal to that franchise. And, it seems genuine. He's never made noise about, trying to to get himself into a different kind of situation. So I'd be stunned if they traded him. But you can't rule it out. In this era of the NBA, anything's possible. Luka Doncic got traded, for Christ's sakes.
Well, they better add something to that team because they're in a conference with San Antonio and Oklahoma City. By the way, Minnesota, who's been to the Western Conference Finals 2 straight years. All right, I'm way over with you per usual, but I've got two quick ones to end on. If the Wizards get number 1, or just tell me, who do you want them to land in the draft, whether it's 1, 2, or 3? Yeah, okay.
It's AJ all the way, baby. All right. Number 1, it's AJ. I love that kid.
Who would be number 2 for you in terms of the Wizards landing on a player?
I'm going to say Peterson. I love Cam Boozer, but I'm going to say Peterson.
Okay. Lastly, what's going to happen with Liv back to PGA? Who's going to make it back?
John Rahm for sure, and Bryson in some kind of limited capacity, where they figure out a way for both John Rahm and Bryson to play in the Players Championship. That is the cornerstone event for the PGA Tour. It really kicks off, the sort of tour season. It's a big event. Folks start paying attention because the Masters is right around the corner after the Players Championship. Everybody likes to see TPC Sawgrass. So having the ability to say we have all the best players in the entire world right here at the Players Championship in March, that's really important to the tour. So I would say they figure out a way to get Rahm and Bryson into that tournament, even if they don't confer full status on both of those guys next season.
Thanks for doing this as always. Let's get out and hit them soon. See ya.
I can't wait. We can do this for another 4 hours.
We could. Joe House, everybody, at House from DC. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. Got this from Kenny. Kenny wrote, Kevin, I know you never loved Heinicke and had no belief in him as our savior, but you have to admit that he's one of the most popular players in franchise history. No, I don't have to admit that. I saw this tweet. Somebody sent this to me. It's from Barstool DMV. Congratulations on retirement, Taylor Heinicke. And they're showing him his dive and his touchdown run against Tampa in the 2020 playoffs. And Barstool DMV writes, thank you for the most iconic moment of the Washington football team era and one of the most legendary performances in team history. I mean, I guess in the Washington football team era, which would have been 2020 and 2021, it's certainly in consideration. I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about the most memorable performances or the most iconic moments during those 2 seasons. I haven't. There weren't many of them. But no, it's not one of the most legendary performances in team history. And I appreciate that everybody really liked this player. I didn't dislike Taylor Heinicke. I thought he was an absolute warrior, gamer, fearless, overachieving guy on the field. I loved that part of him. He just wasn't a starting NFL quarterback. I mean, size-wise, arm strength-wise, throwing with anticipation, although he did a lot of things. His brain obviously was starting level NFL quarterback capable. His will was starting quarterback level. His fearlessness, his, scrappiness was certainly at that level. He just lacked all of the physical tools that most NFL starting quarterbacks have. No, he's not one of the most popular players in franchise history. And no, that was not on the night of January, 2021, in front of no fans. A playoff game that they lost by 8 points is not one of the most legendary performances in team history. Maybe that is for, for fun there and to try to draw response. I mean, I don't know if you heard about John Riggins' performance in Super Bowl 17, or even in the championship game that year, or the quarterfinal game against Minnesota when he rushed for 185 yards. You may have heard about Darrell Green's punt return, legendary performance. You may have heard about, by the way, Alfred Morris. Let's talk about, the Snyder era iconic performances or legendary performances. Certainly, Alfred Morris in the final game of 2012, rushing for 200 yards. No. I mean, it's fine to be appreciative of Taylor Heinicke's very brief NFL career here in Washington and didn't do much anywhere else. And to even, remember fondly that night in which they lost a playoff game, a first-round playoff game to Tampa, where he absolutely was one of the scrappiest players on the field. I mean, that run on, from the 15-yard line where he reached the ball out for the pylon, and that got him to within whatever it got him to within in that moment. I think it was 18 to 14, whatever it was. But come on, man. Seriously, Kenny. He's not one of the most popular players in franchise history. If you did a top 50, top 25 of the most popular players in franchise history, he's not on that list. If you rank the top 25 legendary performances in team history, he's not even in others mentioned, honorable mention. It was a really nice game and a playoff loss for a first-time start. Because that was his first start right here. Maybe he started a game previously at Carolina, did he? Or Minnesota? I forget where he started a game. But I will invite on this day in which no doubt he was a popular Washington football team player. Okay, and even a popular Washington Commander in 2022. Certainly was a popular player for those 3 seasons. And really, it was 2 seasons and a game because the 2020 season was 1 game. You know, we didn't know what we were going to get. They were 10-point underdogs. And he played great. He played great that night. Not a legendary team performance. Not one of the most popular players in franchise history. One of the more popular players in Washington football team history, and maybe the most popular in Washington football team history in that 2-year history. 301-230-0980. Memories of Taylor Heinicke. Maybe there's a game. There are a couple. I'm going to give you a couple of moments that I just thought were, really tough, competitive moments, scrappy moments from him where he helped the team win football games. Remember, 2021, they were in the playoff race in December. 2022, they were in the playoff race in December. With him primarily the starting quarterback in both seasons. 301-230-0980. A favorite memory of Taylor Heinicke's time in D.C. For those that missed it, he retired last night, announced his retirement, and ended his retirement note with "Go Skins." I like that part. Phone lines open. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. of Taylor Heinicke, 301-230-0980. For those that don't know, he announced his retirement yesterday from football. This is a guy who here in Washington in 2020 was given the opportunity to start a playoff game. His first game as a starter in Washington was the playoff game against Tampa on January 9th, 2021. And he was outstanding that night, no doubt. Completed 26 of 44 passes for 306 yards, a touchdown, an interception, and had 6 carries for 46 yards, including that, memorable run to the pylon to cut Tampa's lead in the third quarter of that game to 18-16. Yeah, it was 18-16 at the end of the third quarter. They did lose that game. I know it felt like in the moment that maybe they won that football game, but they didn't. They lost that football game. There were a couple of games for me that I think were incredibly memorable, and I'd go to 2021, when he started against Atlanta on the road, and it was a wild back and forth game. Washington and Atlanta, the Falcons took an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter, and then he threw that incredible touchdown pass where he ducked pressure and threw a TD pass to Terry McLaurin, and then, again, ducked pressure and created and extended more time and dumped it off to McKissick, who ended up scoring, and they won that game 34-30. That particular day, they were outstanding. In clutch situations, he was great. He threw for 293 touchdowns, didn't commit a turnover, which, did plague him at times in games, rushed for 43 yards. Basically was a shootout between Taylor Heinicke and Matt Ryan, in Atlanta in a 34-30 game. Another memorable game for me was at Indianapolis in 2022. They had just beaten the Packers with him taking over the starting role from Carson Wentz. And they beat the Packers, by the way, on a 3rd and long. It was 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and he threw a ball timing-wise to Terry McLaurin on the far sideline for a first down. That was a big-time throw, big-time catch, too. But the game at Indianapolis, was not necessarily Taylor at his best. He threw a pick, he took some sacks, and there he was, with them trailing 16-10, and they picked up a big-time 4th down from their own territory, and then he throws a bomb to Terry that literally brought rain. The ball went straight up into the air, and somehow Terry came down with it, caught it, Washington scored. I think he scored on a quarterback sneak or a quarterback keeper a play or two later, and they won that game 17-16. There were games which, look, he took risks, and they paid off in several, moments. He was truly a believer in himself and fearless. It may have been his biggest strength. He was very good off schedule, obviously, a great feel in the pocket to extend plays, to create time as a thrower or a scrambler. That was really his gift physically, was his athleticism in the pocket, outside the pocket. But I think his greatest strength was that he absolutely believed that he belonged when he was out there. And because of it, there was never any hesitation, never any lack of confidence or belief. And it created some of the moments that I just described with him at quarterback. And look, bottom line is they had chances in 2021 and 2022 with him as the starting quarterback to make the postseason. Now, ultimately, they didn't. I don't blame him for 2021. They were without all those players. Remember that game against Philadelphia late in the season that year, the COVID absences, and he didn't even play. I think it was the game that they played it on like a Tuesday night, and they had I forget who the starting quarterback was in that particular game, but it was somebody off the bench that they had to activate. But yeah, I thought that, I just never thought he was a starting NFL quarterback. I think obviously I was proven correct on that. He had too many physical limitations to really be, a legitimate, full-time NFL starting quarterback, but he was the perfect backup quarterback. A guy that could come in and absolutely not shy away from the moment. Again, I think that was his greatest strength. He came in to the game shooting. Like, you see sometimes a sub come in that you don't really think should come into a basketball game, and he doesn't really seem the part, but the first time he touches it, that ball's going up. Fearless, unafraid. That was Taylor Heinicke for sure. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Memories of Taylor Heinicke's time here in Washington. Let's start with Anthony. Anthony, go ahead.
Kevin, you fell for it.
What did I fall for? I fell for talking about Taylor Heinicke and doing a call segment today.
You're either being trolled or the person that brought that up to you is under 35 and has no knowledge.
Can you? Well, no, I was reading from a tweet. Oh, you think that it was an absolute exaggeration? It may have been. It's Barstool. I mean, I don't know what to believe or not to believe. I don't spend, as you know, Anthony, a lot of time on social media, but to call, it one of the most legendary performances in team history, yeah, they may have been just, that may have been a goof, and I fell for it. Certainly.
And as far as Taylor goes, I don't care about his production or whatever you want to call it, his highlights. To me, he is emblematic of the ineptitude of this franchise's ownership and management for the last 32 years.
Yeah.
So everything positive that he did is nullified by the ineptitude of the management and the ownership. So
yeah,
that's all I got for you.
All right. Thank you, Anthony. Let's go to Ryland in Oklahoma. I haven't heard from Ryland in a while. Memories of Taylor Heinicke. Taylor Heinicke. Ryland, go ahead.
It's a good beer, though, Kev? It's a good beer there.
Not bad.
Like you say, fearless. What a legend. But just like the last caller said there.
All right, well, let's not call him a legend. This is where we got to be careful.
Well,
he's not a franchise legend.
Tongue-in-cheek legend.
He was a popular player for 2 years.
Legend.
Yeah,
he's not a legend. Yeah, I'm very happy we have number 5 under the helm now than number 4, but has to be the pylon dive. And like you say, dipping and ducking in the pocket and just throwing 400 yards over to Terry somewhere out there because he was kind of in triple coverage and not open, but he somehow was open. Those are the memories I remember of him. And they kept one quick thing last night on the Lakers game. I was actually in the building. And let me tell you, those guys spend more time holding their mouth guard and talking to the refs while the boys are coming down the court than playing defense. It is the most insane thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, can you imagine if Luka was out there? I mean, literally, they'd have Luka and LeBron on one end of the floor and Reeves barely making it back over half court as, somebody's dunking on the other end.
Luka was in his slacks talking to the refs every single time the whistles were going. He was out there just shooting around, just talking to the refs. It was insane. It was the craziest thing.
By the way, help me with something real quickly. Is Jalen Williams going to be back or not?
So I don't think so. I not from my brother-in-law is a huge diehard Thunder fan, and he doesn't think so. So I'm taking his word. But maybe in the finals, it's just his other hamstrings. What I hear, but
yeah.
They definitely need him, but the MVP can do a lot. Good Canadian.
How good of an experience? How good of a home? That's one of those home crowd, NBA crowd, basketball crowds, college or pro, that just looks so great to be there. Is it?
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome. It really is awesome. There's not much else here, right? We got the Dodgers AAA team, but people love the Thunder down here. They make a lot of noise. It's a fun atmosphere to be in for sure. Come down anytime, Kevin. It'd be an honor to host you, brother.
I was down in Oklahoma City, 25 years ago. I had to go down there a few times for Mays drugstores, Ryland. I don't know if you remember Mays. I was in Oklahoma City. I was in Norman. Oklahoma's interesting for sure. Athens and Annapolis. Memories of Taylor Heinicke. Go ahead.
I would just say the pylon play and the drive against Tampa, because while he wasn't
the drive in the regular season.
Yes, in the regular season.
Yeah, to put the game away at the end. Yeah.
I just think what people don't understand, the guy who called in earlier and said ineptitude, I don't think he understands why, because Heinicke had so many physical limitations. He left it all on the field, good or bad, every time he played. And without having him, the second and third seasons of Rivera, we're a 3 or 4 win football team. So, I mean, we were average and below average those 2 and 3 years. But, I mean, I really just think that pylon play and that drive against Tampa just shows you, regardless of his abilities, he left it all on the field every single time. And real quick, Kevin, on the NBA, how come no smell test for the NBA playoffs? I'm meaning to ask you that.
I'll be honest with you. Max will be able to tell you this. Thank God I haven't done a smell test for the NBA playoffs, because for the first round, I think personally I was like 2-11. Although I did call the Spurs the other night laying the number, and I already like Cleveland tomorrow laying the points. But yeah, I don't know. I guess the easy answer to that is there wouldn't be enough interest in it. Athen, people are interested in football and they're interested in the NCAA tournament. So I do it for those two things. There's just not the same level of interest with my audience anyway. I mean, really in this town in general, in the NBA playoffs. But it's a good thing that I did not do a smell test for these NBA playoffs, because it's been a disaster personally wagering on some of these games. That drive, by the way, that game was very stunning. You know, it was that 2021 season. It was the beginning of that 4-game win streak. When they were, by the way, starting to play good defense too. The 2022 defense was the best defense of the last 10 years. The defense actually led that team in 2022 to that 7-5-1 record when they went right after the Giant game, wherever 7-5 or whatever they were going into that Giant game that they ended up tying. That was actually the one time in the last like 15 years that it was a defensive-led football team. But that Tampa game, Washington was a 3-6 or a 2-6 football team. And that drive, I should have mentioned that drive at the end of the game, and Taylor was outstanding on that drive. So was McKissick. So was, I think, Gibson in that drive. 19 plays, 80 yards, 10 minutes and 26 seconds to put the game away.
Yep. Tom Brady was pissed on that one.
Oh, yeah. He didn't get another shot. Thanks, Athen. Appreciate it. Scott in Silver Spring. Taylor Heinicke memories. Go ahead.
It's the pylon dive, but I just want to say, like, him coming off his sister's couch, playing the way he did that playoff game, and then the fact that he won what was equivalent to the Heisman Trophy at his level of college football, the year prior, a couple years prior.
At Old
Dominion, I agree with
you
totally. Backup quarterback, solid, like, but the kind of guy you want to come in. I mean, I would rather have him than Handsome Sam right now.
No doubt. I totally agree with that. The only difference, though, is Sam Howell actually had an arm. Sam Howell had an arm.
I'm talking about Sam we got now. I mean, oh God, not
who?
The handsome dude. The third
Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman.
Sam.
Sam is he
Hartman,
on the roster? I don't even think he's on the roster. Is Sam Hartman?
I like Todd. Taylor reminded me of Rex Grossman, like fearless. Just, I'm going to throw the ball. I don't care if it's triple. Rex Grossman never saw a receiver that wasn't open. Like, but
that part of the comparison is a good one, because with Rex it was like, F it, I'm throwing it deep. It doesn't matter. And I love that about Rex, because he was, like Taylor, completely fearless. Rex had more physical ability than Taylor had.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. And he played, at Florida, right? I mean, he
played at Florida. He was the starting quarterback in a Super Bowl for the Bears against the Colts.
Yeah, well, with a great defense.
With a very good defense. By the way, I don't think Sam Hartman's on this roster. Oh, he is. My fault.
Okay,
He is on the roster.
I thought he was. Okay.
Yeah. All right, Scott. Thanks.
'Cause
Sabah started this conversation years ago, and she wants to weigh in, so we're going to let her weigh in on her guy. No one that listens to our station and calls shows was a bigger advocate for Taylor Heinicke than Sabah. You did scare me with your DM. I'm not going to lie to you. I had not seen the news yet.
I didn't mean to do it.
Okay. I just was like,
the article,
I mean, to eulogize him, I understand that shouldn't necessarily have been a trigger for me, but it was because it was so shocking at 4 a.m. this morning or whatever it was.
Which is comforting to me.
Right.
Thank you, Kevin. Listen, okay, I got more than one favorite play. First of all, obviously the pylon dive. Okay, that was great. But the drive against Tampa, like Athen pointed out, some of the other people too, in the 4-game win streak, that amazing 4th down play against the Panthers where he got the ball out to, I think it was Bates or something. The amazing comeback against Indianapolis, the deep throw to Terry. The amazing 4th down throw to Samuels, Curtis Samuels against
that was a better
also
play. The throw to Terry was luck.
No, okay, really? Give me a break. Okay,
it was. That thing brought rain. It went straight up into the air.
Finish? Well, let me have my say.
Be careful with your tone. Be careful with your tone. I'm allowing you on the show for 2 straight days, which is a big risk for me.
It is.
Continue.
The amazing throw that when he woke up Terry against Green Bay, that amazing throw when he beat Aaron Rodgers. Okay, he already beat Tom Brady. He beat Aaron Rodgers, and maybe that was before. Anyway, that amazing pass, that dime, which reminded me of the Cincinnati pass that Jaden threw to Terry. Perfect, and it woke Terry up. And you keep saying that the defense is the reason we were doing so great. Well, it didn't help Carson Wentz now, did it? And what about the Monday night football game? 8-0, we're at Philly. That hike above his head, he went all the way to the end zone almost. Had the arm strength that you guys complain about to throw it over the line of scrimmage to avoid grounding and a sack. And then what about how he baited him at the end to do the late hit on the quarterback? I rather have a quarterback.
You know what? That's a moment I forgot. The Monday night win at Philly when he baited Graham and Brandon Graham into a late hit. Yeah, that was a great moment.
The starting quarterback, Kevin.
Great moment.
And listen, we only had to compare him to Wentz and Fitzpatrick. We didn't have to compare him to Tom Brady, even though he beat him. Okay? He was the best thing we had, and he was the only light in the darkness of the Ron Rivera era. And for him to have a decent record and get us in the playoffs, and for Ron to throw the carpet out from under him, I would never forgive Ron for him. We'll never forgive Ron for that. Anyway.
What did he do? What did he do? I forget. He threw him under the bus. How did he do that? He let him play.
Yes, Cleveland. He let him play. No, Cleveland.
Oh, against Cleveland.
We were in the playoffs, and he wanted to make it Carson Wentz's playoff run. Carson Wentz was 2-5. Yes, and your guy, Legler, was in the stands. He told you the place you could hear a pin drop. We so wanted Taylor. And what's meant through 3 interceptions. You remember the interview with Legler? Oh my God.
I do remember that. I do remember that now that you've brought it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
he had a losing record as a starting quarterback here. I just want you to know
he hung Taylor Heinicke into effigy. I don't like it. He did not want him to succeed. It makes no sense to me. It was our team, and we had a great run despite the cloud of Snyder and the ineptitude of Ron Rivera. But no,
it was a great run. You
Wentz.
Describe it as a great run.
Yes, we were in the playoffs. We were in the playoffs, and Ron didn't even know losing to Cleveland kicked us out. That's how stupid he was. So you cannot.
Well, they didn't. They weren't in the playoffs. They had a chance to make the playoffs. 13, 14, and 1 was his actual record as a starter.
Yeah, but I'm just telling you that it was because of Taylor Heinicke we had a chance, because Wentz was 2-5 or 1-5 before Taylor took over. And that great defense you keep giving credit to.
12, 11, and 1. My fault. He had a winning record here. 12, 11, and 1 in 2 years. Yeah.
Yes, in the horrible era of Ron Rivera. I mean, he couldn't get any worse than that. Well, I guess that guy from Seattle who said we were black and gold or whatever what his name is.
His name is
the wide receiver coach.
Yeah. Okay. Sabah, sympathies. Please accept our sympathies, and you'll get over it. You will. And this guy is brilliant. I mean, he was taking derivatives courses, living on his sister's couch when Scott Turner reached out to him to say, hey, do you want to play some more football? Thanks for that. All right. Theo, Paulie, Joe, OG, and Lap are on hold. Taylor Heinicke Memories. Ben Standig will join us from the park at 12. Today is minicamp, rookie minicamp day 1. Dan Quinn expected to speak today at 1 o'clock. I'm sure Chris will carry it either live or certainly highlights of it during his show. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, the team980.com. We are free and live on the Odyssey app. We are also watchable on the Team 980 YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button and hit the like button when you get there.
Down to 40 seconds. Heinicke looking. Heinicke. They keep the play alive again. He flips it downfield, and McLaurin, the hometown kid, hauls it in at the 1-yard line. What a grab. He ripped it away from Stephon Gilmore. Down to 40 seconds.
That throw against the Colts, I mean, that thing literally almost hit the ceiling of the Indianapolis Hoosier Dome, or whatever it was called, RCA Dome, whatever the name is now. He did force feed Terry. He was the guy that said, I'm just going to throw it to 17. That's my best chance. And it worked out for him. Memories of Taylor Heinicke from Ted. Ted writes, my favorite memory was when we didn't have to talk about him anymore. Yes, an absolute gamer, but what a distraction from real conversations about winning. Unbelievable reflection of how delusional our fan base was during those years. Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I got sick of it too, because it just got to the point where there was too much trying to convince, not a majority, but a healthy minority of fans, let's call it 20%, that this was not the answer to our problems at quarterback. And they were so convinced, and he was putting together decent games in which he was managing games well and taking risks that were paying off, sometimes with good fortune. By the way, the 2022 defense was finished number 7th in the league in DVOA. Offensively, they were 21st that year. So I do think that the defense led them into that position in 2022 more than Taylor Heinicke did. But at the same time, I do understand and appreciate what he was, but I'm not going to, be hyperbolic about what he wasn't. All right, let's go to OG Ricardo. OG Ricardo, your Taylor Heinicke memories. Go ahead.
Thanks for taking my call, Kevin.
Sure.
Mainly just the pile-on game. I'm like that last tweet or message you got. This is, my memories is just to forget about him. And also I will give him credit. He got every ounce of talent out of his body. And maybe it is a great underdog story. Actually, maybe a Disney movie about.
Well, let's not go. They didn't win the Super Bowl. They didn't win a playoff game, and he only played one.
I know, but okay, all right.
He was 12-11-1 as a starting quarterback here.
Yeah. No, I got you. No, I'm on your side on that, but I don't know. I mean, he's a great underdog, and the delusional fans. I hope that earlier guy was trolling you about great playoff performances in history. I mean, you had 3 in one game, the Super Bowl with Doug Williams,
Williams, Timmy Smith,
and Ricky Sanders. All 3 of them had great games.
Throw Ricky Sanders in there.
So that's just delusional.
If you're over the age of 18, you probably have the perspective of legendary performances in franchise history. But I think that was a total troll on social media. By Barstool DMV. I don't think they actually were serious.
Sabah's not trolling. Sabah's not trolling.
No. It's from
real quick, Kevin, if I may. There's a 2020 Stanford University poll about how Native Americans feel about the Redskin name. So anyway, check it out. All right, thanks, Kevin. Peace out.
Thanks, appreciate it, OG Ricardo. Let's go to Theo in Upper Marlboro. Theo, your Taylor Heinicke memories. Go ahead. Theo, you there? No Theo?
Nope.
All right, let's go to Joe in Virginia. Joe, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Kevin?
What's up, Joe?
So, hey, I like you. I mean, he had some great games, Taylor Heinicke, but it did get a little crazy. We had to keep talking about him constantly every single week. It's all about him. No, but it wasn't all about him. But I got to tell you, one game that did stand out was in 2021 as a game against the Giants. I think through a late interception, he let us back down the field. And if not for Dexter Lawrence jumping off sides late, Dustin Hopkins doesn't get a second chance. But it was still a game.
The Thursday night game, week 2 in 21. Yes, Dexter Lawrence jumped off sides on the missed field goal. And yes, he led them into field goal range and was really good in that game, if I recall. I'll pull up the stats, but I think that was one of his better games.
Yeah. And real quick, Kevin, about the NBA playoffs, one player we have not talked about that has done pretty well in this postseason is Karl Anthony Towns. And if not for him getting in foul trouble these first 2 games,
He's got to stay out of foul trouble. Without OG, he's got to stay out of foul trouble.
Yeah,
he's got to stop fouling.
The Sixers in game 1. Yeah, but in game 2, I mean, if he didn't get in foul trouble in game 2, they would have won by double digits. So
I'm with you, Joe. I think he's playing at a really high level, and I really like him as a high post passer, running the offense through him. To me, that makes more sense at times than Jalen Brunson, playing ISO ball. Although at the end of the clock, I'd rather Brunson have the ball. By the way, that week 2 game in 2021, Taylor Heinicke, this had to have been his best game statistically in terms of, completion percentage and yards. He threw for 336 on 34 of 46 with 2 touchdowns, had a pick in the game. Dexter Lawrence jumped off sides.
Receiving that night, Kevin?
What'd you say?
Didn't Terry have 100 yards receiving that night? I mean, it's another example why Taylor always gave Terry the ball.
Terry was 11 catches for 107 yards. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
There you go.
Appreciate it. Paulie, Taylor Heinicke memories.
Hail to the W, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations to the Hampton Boulevard bully, Taylor Heinicke.
I like that.
No question.
Yeah, I mean, that's where he was.
Right. No question. The best player in ODU football history.
He won the equivalent of the Heisman, right?
Of the Heisman. Listen, man.
Yeah.
He
at that level.
Hampton Boulevard down.
Yeah.
Shut Hampton Boulevard down, man. Every time they played, you knew when ODU was playing, and it was because of Taylor Heinicke. You know what I mean? And
right.
I remember that Saturday. I was listening to Zabe, one of Zabe's last shows on Saturday, and he's like, "I don't know who this guy is." So I called him. I said, "Zabe, don't worry. He's gonna give us a shot." There's one thing Taylor Heinicke do. He's a gamer.
Yeah.
You don't have to know who he is, but he's gonna give us a chance to win. And in this TikTok world today, a lot of fans does put that up there as one of the greatest, moments in franchise history. It was a moment. You got to remember when that pylon died, he hurt his shoulder.
Yeah.
It was right before the half.
But it's not one of the most iconic moments in franchise history. Even Barstool, it was the most iconic moment in Washington football team history.
I didn't say it was iconic. I just said for these past 10 to 15 years,
they lost the game, Paul.
The only hope we kind of had, man. Like that's why we talk about. Like in that moment, he was the one shining star that we had.
Mm-hmm.
So it was.
Yeah,
especially
he played well.
Especially at the quarterback position, where Ron said, "I want to build a roster first, then plug in the quarterback," and never could plug in the quarterback. All his quarterback, he was the one quarterback that actually had a chance. His number one problem was he didn't have an NFL arm. Nowhere close to it. If he had
you just reminded me of something.
Now.
I got to get to a break here, but you just reminded me of something. I think I've had Scott Turner on the show
real quick.
Quickly.
Real quick. Hey, no, Mikal Bridges need to step up. 7 unprotected first-round draft picks and $40 million.
I know. But they're going to miss. They're going to miss OG if he can't play.
Need to step up and take that spot.
All right. I got to go. I was just going to say that in the 2 or 3 times now that I've had Scott Turner on the show over the last year, I remember asking him about Taylor Heinicke. I think the first time I had him on, and he just said everything that most of us thought. Just an unbelievable competitor. Real gamer, really good at sort of feel in the pocket, extending plays, but he was not a starting quarterback in the NFL. He didn't have the physical tools to be that, but that was a good match, for Scott Turner. He did the things that Scott wanted to do and kept him competitive, but let's not go crazy. I mean, they didn't make Super Bowl runs. The playoff game that he played in was his first game. He wasn't a part of the regular season that got him to 7-9. All right. Ben Standing next from Ashburn, where rookie minicamp is about to get underway. All right, Ben Standing's with us, as he is every Monday and Friday. Rookie minicamp, that is, gets underway. This afternoon, Dan Quinn's scheduled to speak at 1 o'clock, and then it's the rookies taking the field. But before we get to that, I'll ask you for your memories of Taylor Heinicke.
Oh, I mean,
why are you laughing? Did you not think I was going to ask you about him?
My head has been elsewhere today. Even though you and I texted last night about you coming on my podcast to discuss that.
Yeah, but he had nothing. None of that had been announced yet. But what are your memories?
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously that very first, the Tampa Bay playoff game, it all kind of starts there. When I'm at a game, I rarely am immersed into the broadcast. Maybe I have the game on to look at a replay or something, but I'm not really focusing on like the actual like broadcast and being part of the community in that way. And if I think about it, I'm sure there were some times in 2024 where I would have liked to have been part of that. And I think for sure Taylor Heinicke's coming out party against the Bucs in that playoff game with the dive for the pylon and all that would have been an incredible moment, because it's rare for a guy to come from almost nowhere to become a cult hero in the matter of like a few plays. And basically that's what happened. And he turned that experience, the gutsiness, all of that he had out there, the grit, turned that into an actual career. And, there's tons of other moments. He when he spoke with us, he was always, maybe he wasn't in like diving for the pylon mode in the press conference, but he was always willing to let it fly. Like he didn't hold back. He just was him. And you always appreciated that. And, I think we all understood he wasn't the answer, but it was a hell of a fun ride.
Not everybody understood that. In the moment, go back and put yourself into that moment. And I'm not just talking about Sabah. She was not the only one. I mean, it wasn't the majority, but 20%, 25% of our fan base thought he was the answer. And that was the problem during those days, is hearing from people who legitimately thought, we got our guy, now let's focus on the rest of the roster.
Right. I mean, this was the problem throughout the Dan Snyder era, in that anytime any player showed any form of excitement or competency, that player immediately got thrust up into a level or two that just they didn't belong in. But because the bar was so low before, that everybody by comparison was like, oh, wow, this is the guy. And you're right, that certainly was the case. I'm just saying, like, for me, and I think, most of or others in the media or whatever, I think it was always like, wow, this is fun. I can't believe this is happening. I don't know where this is going, but I don't know too many of us thought like, well, they figured things out.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let's get to some business that you can tidy up for us. In terms of rookie minicamp and the 6 players that they drafted, are they all under contract?
Yeah, the rookies are all, the draft picks all signed today. So the team announced, so they are good to go.
How many players will be there at rookie minicamp, including obviously undrafted? And then how many veteran players show up for this? Do any of the veterans actually show up for it?
Yeah, they haven't unfortunately given us, unless it's happened while I've been driving out to the park right now, they haven't given us the list. So typically it's around 20 to 30, it just depends. I mean, obviously they've got 6 players draft, 9 players UDFAs, and then there'll be a draft who are invited to the rookie camp. And you talk about the vets. I mean, there's no vets who were like guys who were playing last year in any real way, but
right.
Somebody who was practice squad guys like your Ja'Cory Brooks, Jacoby Jones, like kind of those guys I would assume would be there. Maybe there's a couple of guys at the back of the roster who got on there late in the season or barely played, but it'll be those types of guys. It won't be anybody that we're going to be really thinking about. That would be surprising. I think the one guy I'm curious is Sam Hartman, only because you don't need, they're not playing a game here, so it's not like you need two quarterbacks, and since they have the rookie, I don't know that he'll be there, but this would be the type of guy where a guy like a Hartman would, in theory, be there.
Did we talk about the fact that ultimately the draft class ended up being pretty low on the overall relative athletic score rankings in terms of draft classes for all 32 teams? I'm forgetting where it was, but it was near the bottom of the league ultimately. Sonny Styles was super high, but no one really after him was, and the overall aggregate average RAS score was bottom 2 or 3 in the league.
We talked about that. Obviously, that's been a big deal for Adam Peters. Some of those later round picks, I think, really bring the average down, right? I think I'm pretty sure Antonio Williams was in the top part. I want to say Joseph's, but maybe not because his 40 time was fairly slow for a pass rusher. But yeah, I mean, Gulbin and the quarterback, they kind of brought it down a bit. So. I think the still general principle and why, Sonny Styles always made sense, not only because of the need, but because of that athletic ability. And, so it would have been like, if you told me like the first player was somebody who didn't score high in that would be surprising. The fact that the overall grade, again, when you're picking in the later rounds, you're just kind of, can somebody make this roster? And I just assume some of those principles probably got the window. But yeah, I mean, it is true that prior to, up until I want to say Gulbin, that everybody they had drafted, including the first few guys this year, had all been on the highest level of that RAS score. But yeah, a couple guys at the bottom, I think, brought it down.
Give me a guy. First of all, before I get to give me a guy, did you find out who got guaranteed money of the undrafted free agents? Did anybody get, real money to sign here? Because that's always an interesting thing to look at because it's, an expression of their belief in the player because they're probably competing with other teams to sign that player. But did anybody get any legitimate guaranteed money of the undrafted free agents?
Of the things I should have looked more into this because you think you asked me this a couple weeks ago. I'm not aware of any significant money, but I also haven't seen anybody reporting anything, right? So I don't know that anything really happened. I know there was like one player, from what I gather, could have had more money elsewhere, but took less because he thought the opportunity was better here. But in general, no, I didn't get the sense that there was anybody that had like some big money. I guess the one thing I would be kind of curious about is the kicker, just because that's obviously a position where you can go straight from being a UDFA to starting. And did he have other opportunities? But as we know, this one is, as far as opportunities go, seems like a pretty good one.
You mentioned Drew Stevens out of Iowa. I think we've already talked about him. He's got a big leg and was a bit of a clutch, performer at Iowa over 4 years. But do you have a sense of a player they're really excited about among their undrafted free agents?
I don't know. Obviously we'll talk to Quinn today, so maybe we'll get a better feel for that. I always try to look at this like, are there guys that you think can make the team or be somebody interesting for the practice squad? I know a guy like Chris Hilton Jr. has gotten a lot of attention, partly because of the Jaden Daniels ties.
Receiver LSU. Yep.
Right, LSU. But in looking him up, like, in LSU's 2021 recruiting class, he was the number one receiver in a class with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. So there is clearly something here to mine. The athleticism is pretty legit, speed, all that, but the production was non-existent over his time at LSU. And it's not like he didn't have quarterbacks. Because even after Jaden moved on, I know Garrett Nussmeier fell on the draft, but the first year he was really, really good. And the production still wasn't there. So I think there is some question, I think there is some interest, okay, what is that? What is the deal here? How is a guy this athletically gifted come up that short in college? So I think, again, I'm not saying to make the 53, but in terms of a project, I think he's one that stands out to me. And there are a couple other guys who have the RAS testing numbers that look pretty positive. There's one offensive lineman whose name I'm blanking on at the moment. I'm not blanking, but I don't know how to say it.
The Samoan or the Hawaiian from Utah, right?
Yeah.
The guard.
Yeah. His RAS numbers are pretty good. So, I think a couple guys like that. And, again, I think cornerback, offensive line in particular, to me, from a depth perspective, is where there's some opportunities. And one other name I'll mention, Fred Davis the second, cornerback out of for Northwestern. You know, in terms of just being a technical corner, he looks pretty good from what I gather. It's just that he didn't run very fast. He was like in the 4.640 time, and that dropped him obviously down to where he went undrafted. But you look at their Washington's cornerback room. Not only do I think that the top four, there's still some questions, but I have zero idea who number 5 and 6 are if they keep that many, which is typically what they do. They've got a bunch of guys on, you know, from the practice squad, but there's hardly any guys who would be like, well, they're definitely going to get in here. So, you know, I think a guy like that who has a lot of experience, who can, again, technically sound, but the question will be, do they think he has enough athleticism to get the job done? I think a guy like that is somebody they'll be keeping an eye on for sure.
In your years, we're talking to Ben Standig, at Ben Standig on X. Ben writes and covers this team in a Substack column. It's totally worth the very low subscription fee of a couple of bucks a month. So I would urge you to do that. You can link to it on his X account at Ben Standig. Is there a player that you can recall from this specific weekend that stood out for either reason, really, really good and promising, or not, they got the wrong guy here?
I'm trying to remember the first time that we talked to Josh Dodson, because I feel like it was the first time that I was around him and I was like, wait, what? This guy, I don't get the sense this guy wants to play football that much relative to the expectations. And again, I don't remember if that was the very first time, but it feels like the first time. I think he was also like, did he miss some of the early practices? I think whether it was because of an injury or
he was like a bit homesick. I think he didn't want to. There was a lot going on when he first got here.
He transferred colleges to be closer to home because of being homesick, which I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying that's notable in this, you know, especially in this sport. So that was one that kind of stood out there. I feel like Bill was getting, like, obviously a 7th round pick. You know, I'm not thinking too much about that guy. And yeah, sure, running back's a little bit different because it's a you know, fantasy football position. But I remember thinking, like, seeing Bill, like, oh, okay, this isn't just a rando that they added here late in the draft. That there's maybe a little bit of juice here, and obviously that really took off as they went through the you know, OTAs and so on, and then it became a cult hero after that. So I think there's a couple guys that stand out. You know, there's always somebody, I guarantee somebody will have an amazing catcher, and we'll all tweet about it and tell you,
Antonio Gandy Golden, maybe
something like that, or even.
I mean, I can remember from minicamp on, him and Jimmy Moreland were going to be. Oh my God, they stole these players after minicamp.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, I asked Jay Gruden, I think last week when he was on with me, I said, at a minicamp, was there ever a player that right away you knew one way or the other? And he immediately said, Terry. Said the first time Terry took the field for us at minicamp, he's like, whoa, okay, we liked him, had no idea he was this polished, that he was this good. And remember, they pretty much hit him the rest of the way until the season opener at Philadelphia, where he had a big breakout game. But he said that was the one. No other player really stood out positively or negatively. I know that they really thought that Dwayne Haskins was really, you know, behind the 8 ball in terms of being able to play at a professional level, you know, from the very jump, that he just was not ready, nowhere near ready. And they knew it from the beginning. Well, they knew it before the draft, but Dan drafted him anyway. But the late Dwayne Haskins early on, everybody that kind of was close to it said, yeah, this is not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, to go back to the Terry point of it all, when he was drafted, honestly, as I recall, like, the
special
big selling point on him, at least as a rookie, was about special teams.
100%.
That this is where he was going to make his mark. So like, okay, young guy develop, we'll see. And then it was pretty quickly. It was like, oh wait, there's much more here they see than what was anticipated. And then obviously, you know, from the jump, he was their best receiver. He's been since he's been on the team, he's basically been their best receiver the whole time. So yeah, no, that's a good one. Quarterbacks are always tricky, as we know, just because the nature of the position. People want to see a guy come out there and be great day one, because that makes you feel a lot better. And obviously, also it's like, oh, okay, the learning curve won't be too strong here. And of course, Dwayne did have that learning curve, like he said, and something he had to deal with during his time here. But and obviously for Jay, that was a tough place to be because he needed to win, and he didn't need to have a project at that point.
I'm just thinking about last year's class. I remember Sean Springs coming on pretty early after minicamp and OTAs, maybe before training camp, saying Trey Amos is an NFL corner. And it was obvious because he was out there for one of those first few days. And he said, I know what an NFL corner looks like. And Trey Amos is an NFL corner. So that was one guy from, I guess, last year's draft that made a pretty big early impression. But you know what? Correct me if I'm wrong. Emmanuel Forbes, other than his size, made a decent impression early on, didn't he? Or am I remembering that incorrectly?
No, absolutely. And that's why, we always say you got to temper expectations based on what we're watching in practices with, like no pads or no tackling and all these things. Because, and also for example, if today, we say that one of the players in the secondary was making a lot of plays. Well, who's quarterbacking? It's not Jaden Daniels. It's not Marcus Mariota. It's a guy who was picked in the 7th round. So it's all, and the receivers are not guys who are NFL proven or maybe not even make a roster, Antonio Williams aside. So all that's true. But to me, it's hard to define what you see, but sort of when you know it, you know it. It's an attitude, it's a confidence, it's the way they carry themselves, the way they look out there. I remember looking again to go back to Bill last year. And when I saw him, I remember he was sort of standing with his back towards wherever I was. And I was like, dude, this guy is much bigger than I thought. I mean, I'm not saying he was Earl Campbell or John Riggins, but just he had some good build to him. And I know Anthony Lynn, in talking to him later on during the offseason, said something similar, that watching him on tape was one thing, seeing him in person was another. So those are the types of things as well that I think can matter. And again, you can also get caught up in the other way, where you see a 6'5" receiver like last year, like Ja'Cory Brooks. Everybody thought, okay, here's the guy, and we'll see. Who knows? But just because of the look doesn't mean the player is going to be good to go. Again, the undrafted guys. Here's a key thing to remember: they were undrafted. It doesn't mean teams don't make mistakes, but at the first blush, nobody thought to themselves, "We need to spend a pick on this guy." That have to be factored into this, even if we find out later that they were all wrong.
Yeah. You take me back to Ja'Cory Brooks last year. These are the kinds of things that I think right now we don't know. I think sometimes people on the beat like you learn some of this stuff. You're usually not afraid to sling it out there. But a player that nobody's thinking about, and by the way, typically – young players don't start to make their mark until year 2, year 3. I mean, it's not, especially guys that are drafted after the first round and undrafted free agents. And I just think about a guy like Jacoby Jones or Ja'Cory Brooks, either one of them. And there was the look was there. They looked like NFL receivers. And for all we know, a guy like David Blau is look, we've got a Terry McLaurin on our roster that we're not going to talk about. We'll unleash when the regular season starts. I mean, I doubt that's true, but it's not impossible because there are a lot of young players that just didn't get as many opportunities last year, even though they did give a lot of players that weren't on the roster before the year started opportunities last year out of necessity. We're talking to Ben Standing. Let's just talk receiver here for a moment. Juwan Jennings, man, that's a disappointing free agency for him. 1 year, $13 million in Minnesota, but I thought he would get a multi-year deal before free agency began. You believe that there was probably some interest from Washington, but not, enough to get to whatever number he was asking for.
Right. Well, first, it's not even, it's an $8 million base with upside to 13. So it's not even, it's even less than what he would have thought. And I think, from what I had heard, he was looking north of $15 million annually per in free agency before the draft, and obviously that didn't happen. So he goes to Minnesota for a lot less. I mean, from the Washington perspective, they at least checked in. The fact that it just never seemed to get any momentum. There was never really any rumors about it. At the point that we were getting towards the draft and all the Brandon Ayuk stuff keeps being discussed, I was like, okay, what is going on here? So I did try to look into it a bit more. Again, you can tell me, I know you've talked about it. We've talked about it ad nauseum. You can tell me whatever you want about Brandon Ayuk, but the one thing I know is he didn't play last year. Juwan Jennings did, had 9 touchdowns. He's maybe not exactly what they need in terms of doesn't have a certain speed that I like, but good size, whatever. He played last year, and Adam Peters knows him. Well, that didn't work, or they didn't show that. So that's why I'm sort of just been puzzled as to why is it guy with all the question marks that we have about Ayuk when here's a Juwan Jennings who's sitting right there. Adam Peters knows him, and that didn't seem to move the needle for him. And so be it. It is.
Well,
what it is.
The players are completely different. I mean, I know Ayuk hasn't played since 2023, but they're completely different players. Ayuk is a stretch the field, home run, big pass catching threat. Juwan Jennings is the best blocking wide receiver in the NFL, who's also, I think, a little bit underrated, underneath, over the middle, as a tough guy and as a good hands catcher.
Yeah, no, they're definitely very different, but this is the beggars choosers type of a part of the offseason, right? I mean, there's only so many guys left. It's not like there's okay, you go to the grocery store, you can sift through all the different kinds of cereals. Here it's you got 3 boxes. Which one do you want? And they're sticking, it seems with the one that I wouldn't necessarily want on my table, but they're willing to go it. And again, even with Stephon Diggs, am I interested in Stephon Diggs? Not really. Obviously, there's been a lot going on with him off the field. I know his recent matter got cleaned up in the court system, and he was exonerated, and the case thrown out, and all that. But there's been other things. But here's what I do know. Every year he plays a full season, he goes over 1,000 yards, including last year with the team that went to the Super Bowl. That guy plays, even if he's not the deep threat that Ayuk is. I know he's playing. That to me seems like a pretty good tiebreaker. So, again, it is what it is in terms of why they clearly seem to be focused on one guy rather than just getting a receiver. And we'll ultimately find out if that's the way it goes and what happens. But, yeah, I mean, to me, the guys who actually play, that seems like a pretty good trait above everything else.
Yeah, from Poem C on X, my guy Kevin Sheehan is willing to die on this Brandon Ayuk hill, and I can't tell to what degree he's leveraging radio agitation, but the commitment is impressive. Dovetails nicely with the Terry slander, too. Call segments for days. Yeah, there's no Terry slander. That's an exaggeration. I like Terry a lot. Just don't think that he is elite. That's all. It's really not that hard. It's not that I'm willing to die on this Brandon Ayuk hill. I'm just saying that if they're sitting there waiting for him and they end up signing him, I have to assume, tell me if you think I'm incorrect, I have to assume that they know that he is physically healthy, mentally stable, and is ready to prove everybody wrong. And ready to sign a 1-year prove-it deal. And under those circumstances, sign me up 100%. They're going to know more than we're going to know about the individual. And if they do it, then I'm going to assume, tell me if you think that they would do it without knowing this, that he's checked the boxes, the health boxes, both mentally and physically.
That's the only justification for why this is a conversation still. I mean, look, it's a tricky spot for them, right? They can't technically talk. They can't talk to him. I mean, obviously, I get it. He and Jaden might text all the time. That's different. They can't talk to him directly, and there's only so much homework they can do because he's on another team. Simultaneously, if they haven't done every bit of due diligence possible, and they've waited all this time, and they've let other opportunities go by, that is awful. That would be terrible planning if they we're going to totally.
Well, they did try for Pierce and Dobbs.
Right, sure, but I mean, I don't even know that they wouldn't have gone if they wouldn't have gone with Ayuk still, based on how things are going. But yeah,
sure.
I mean, that's yes, they did try for those guys, but they weren't the only receivers out there. They're just the ones. They were the biggest names, and they took a shot, didn't work. So be it. I have no issues with that. Yeah, you would like to think that they have a really, 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 really good idea. But I guess here's the thing about it is, which is, again makes this weird. One, if they've been able to do whatever due diligence they have, they're not the only people in the league who could do this, and yet seemingly no other team is linked with Ayuk on any level. So what does that tell you? Like, it's not like they're the only team that needs a
could
receiver.
tell you that they all believe that there's only one place he wants to play.
Okay, so again, if somebody's willing to say we want Brandon Ayuk, we'll even give you more money than what Washington is going to give you, he still would be like, no. Okay.
Yeah, look, I mean, he threw away $30 to $40 million. So the judgment, on managing finances isn't the best. Not the best track record. By the way, on Stephon Diggs, I'm on the record of, he, like you said, is available. He played last year. He played well last year. I'm actually, on some level, somewhat surprised that New England isn't bringing him back. But there is this short shelf life to the Stephon Diggs experience, historically. But I'd be fine. That would be, Stephon Diggs he's been the number one on every team he's been on, and his best number two was Adam Thielen. Like, he'd be the number two with Terry at this point in his career. And I think it would be a major add if you got what he provided last year at a bare minimum.
Yeah, by the way, I think the list of the tryout players, or maybe the rookie list, just came out, but I can't look at it while we're talking. Got a moment to look at Twitter. Maybe it's there. He can tell you if anything's interesting. Yeah, look, the Diggs thing again, the fact that he is available despite having another productive season, I think and again, there was the questions of his of accusations that were against him, and people had to wait through that. Okay, so I get where that may have factored in. Look, New England's moved on big time. They got Dobbs, and I guess they're getting A.J. Brown, so they are definitely decided, despite whatever the A.J. Brown trade is going to be, that they would rather go that route than bring Diggs back just for money. That says something as well. And presumably Diggs, whatever money he's going to get, probably going to be less than Dobbs got. So they really said that we want to move on in a variety of ways. And, again, like you said, this isn't he's had a short, we're not short, but, he wears that as welcome seemingly wherever he goes. And like, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't be advocating that Washington should get him. But if you're going to, again, go down the Brandon Ayuk route, well, then, okay, wait a minute. If we're going to, I don't want to say lower principles because that may be unfair. I don't know Brandon Ayuk. They do. He may be the best teammate possible. So I don't want to go down that route. But clearly there are questions. He hasn't played since 2024. And if you're willing to go down, somewhat of a questionable path, well, why would you not at least take a longer look at the guy who's been highly productive? It's like when T.O. was, the number one enemy in the league. The guy was also the best receiver, so people put up with whatever he was doing because he went out there and produced. I'm not saying Diggs is that, but at least we've seen him produce. The other guy, it feels like it's a wing and a prayer, and we just don't know anything, and that's why I think this is just. Look, I can see this. If Brandon Ayuk shows up, if he does come to Washington and he says the right things, and whether it's practice or preseason or whatever looks the right way, I can see a lot of us in the media going, boy, you know what? Why I really like this Brandon Ayuk signing. It's not going to be backtracking or pivoting. It's going to be we have information now. We have none to this point. And all the information we have is not good. That's why I think for most of us, this makes no sense.
But here's the thing. I want to just go back to sort of my overall thoughts on this. The player was great in 2023 and ascending. So immediately I'm interested in adding that kind of a talent to my team. So then I go to the next step. We don't know anything about him since. And what we do know about him, as you just said, is primarily not good. But I have to rely on Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, front office, Jaden Daniels, that if they actually did sign him at any point, that they've done all of the due diligence. They've checked off all the boxes on all of the things that we've heard or assumed weren't good. And therefore, there's a chance you're going to get that player from 2023. Because if there's a chance you're going to get that player from 2023 without any disruptions and with no downside in terms of the ability to move on contractually, then I'd be excited about that possibility. And I would assume that since they did it, they think that that's a possibility as well. Because he was a great player in 2023 and ascending.
Yeah, I assume that they think that, but as you just said, 2023. I mean,
yeah,
that is a long time ago. He played in 24 a little bit, but like that's forever ago. You know, so I mean, that was before Dayton Daniels was in the league. So that's the question. And again, I think the other part of this is if he was just a standard free agent, he was just hanging out on this, waiting for the call. He's ready to go. He's been around. This guy has been basically, it feels like a recluse. Like nobody seems to talk to him. Again, I don't mean a friend texting him. I mean like people in the league. Anybody I've talked to, you see other reporting. Adam Schefter reported this as much, that people do not seem to be able to get a hold of the guy.
Yeah.
Even if you're telling me that Washington is where he only wants to go, that's still weird. So that's what I'm saying. They know way more than we do, but based on what we know, I can't, it's hard for me to just sit here blindly and go, look, it makes perfect sense.
All right. I got to go. Thanks for doing this.
Always, man. I'll bring full report on Monday for you of all the great things that happened today.
We'll be able to talk about who the Wizards are going to draft on Monday as well. Thank you, Ben Standing.
See ya.
At Ben Standing on X. Speaking of the Wizards in the draft, Sunday is lottery day. What are your expectations? Are you expecting the worst? Or are you expecting maybe a break finally? 301-230-0980. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show on the Team 980 and the team980.com. The weather this month has been incredible. An unbelievable start to May, and May weather's usually pretty good. But hot summer days will be here before we know it. So if you've got older windows and you've been thinking about swapping those old windows out with brand new, more energy efficient windows, my recommendation is to reach out to Window Nation. Window Nation's offering their buy 4, get 4 free sale right now, where you get 4 free windows with every 4 purchased. No limit on that, which means you're paying half price on your purchase. Add to that, no down payment required, no monthly payments required, and no interest charged for 2 years. So it is a good time, if you've got older windows and you've been thinking about this, to reach out to Window Nation. 866-90Nation or windownation.com to schedule your fast, free in-home estimate. They'll schedule it for you when it's convenient for you. They'll be in your home an hour tops, and you'll actually find out which windows in your home need to be replaced. They'll leave you with a quote. Included in that is the buy 4, get 4 free sale and the financing option of no money down, no payments monthly, and no interest for 2 years. And then you make the call. But if you've been thinking about it, I recommend Window Nation. They have over 45,000 5-star reviews on social media, and they were rated number 1 by Forbes magazine among all U.S. window installation companies. I promise you it'll work out well for you. 866-90Nation or windownation.com. Real quickly, the Wizards in 25 NBA draft lotteries since the draft lottery was instituted in 1985. So out of a potential 40 draft lotteries, the Wizards have been in 25 of them, 25 out of 40. Out of those 25 NBA draft lotteries, they have moved up from their draft position entering the draft lottery just 3 times. 3 times out of 25. They have stayed put where they were supposed to pick based on record 11 times, and they have moved back 11 times. They have had terrible draft lottery luck. Are you expecting anything different on Sunday? We actually put up a Twitter poll, our Waldorf Honda X/Twitter poll. It all starts with a click, waldorfhonda.com. Our poll of the day driven by Waldorf Honda. What are you expecting from NBA lottery on Sunday? It's at 3 p.m., by the way, before the first game at 3:30 on Sunday. Are you expecting Wizards good luck or Wizards bad luck? You can call us and give us your Wizards draft lottery thoughts, including anything that was super disappointing in the past. Last year was super disappointing, clearly, with Cooper Flagg as a possibility. This year, I think it's A.J. DeBonsa. Could be Darren Peterson. There's actually some news on Darren Peterson. The news being that Darren Peterson said that a new round of blood work and other tests after the season led doctors to conclude that his use of high doses of creatine led to mysterious and sometimes debilitating cramping. Quote, I made it to the training room and just started begging for them to call 911. This was him on a medical episode that he suffered back in September. They were trying to get a vein to get an IV into me, but I was so dehydrated. I was cramping so hard they couldn't get a vein. I thought I was going to die on the training table that day. So a lot of the, mystery surrounding Darren Peterson, his cramping, leaving games, not playing in games, begging out of games right before they began, had to do with this. A.J. DeBonsa is my number 1. I don't know who my number 2 is. I really think Acuff is going to be Lillard. I think that he's going to be a prolific scoring point guard in the NBA. He's not real fond of defending, not one of his favorite things to do. He's going to have to become better at that. But then again, every single night in these NBA playoffs, you see more times than not a point guard being hunted out. Whether it's Jalen Brunson or Donovan Mitchell or James Harden or whomever it is, They're getting hunted. Luka Doncic gets hunted by teams. Please, can we get him on a switch to guard one of our scorers? Acuff might become one of those players. He may also, average 27, 28 points a game 4 or 5 years from now. Now, would they do that? Would they draft a scoring point guard after Trae Young was traded for? Who knows? Real quickly, too, football related, Brandon McManus was just released by Green Bay. Remember him? Signed by this team in their first free agency period in 2024 and then released because of the sexual assault allegations stemming from the time that he was with the Jags. It was an incident on an airplane coming back from a game. Washington felt like they couldn't take the chance before the allegations were heard. They were eventually dropped, and he signed with Green Bay. And Green Bay drafted the Florida kicker in this past draft, and they just cut McManus today after signing him last year to a 3-year, $15.3 million deal. It included a $5 million signing bonus, and they just paid him in March another $1 million signing bonus. Now, they did not know that they were going to draft the kicker, the best kicker in the draft, the kid out of Florida. Why am I blanking on his name, Anthony? Who's the kicker they drafted from Florida? What's his name? Smack or something
Trey
like that?
Smack?
Yeah. So McManus is out there. I wonder if our team would bring him in to camp. They signed Drew Stevens from Iowa, undrafted free agent. McManus missed, remember, in that playoff game, in that cold playoff game against Chicago, he missed 2 field goals and missed an extra point. He basically cost them that game against Caleb Williams and the Bears. All right. Are you expecting good luck or bad luck on Sunday? And any Wizards draft lottery memories? Last year was the killer. I would have loved Cooper Flag. And instead they dropped to the lowest possible point. Mark and Largo, go ahead.
In between, probably. Look, Adam Silver is not going to let us get the number 1 pick because we can't. He's targeted us. I think more likely we're probably going to get 3.
He's targeted us. He's targeted us as a team that he does not want to get. So do you think we end up with the 4th pick? Last year, remember, the 6th was the worst case, and we got the 6th.
I think we'll get 3. I don't think he's going to go down that bad like he did last year. I think we'll get 3 and probably get Caleb Wilson. But hey, breaking news. Got released May 14th. Figured you hear it first.
That's why I wanted to get it out yesterday, because I knew we're going to get some leaks over the weekend and on Monday. So a week from
on that.
What'd you say? What'd you say?
Adam Schefter.
Okay.
Adam Schefter.
May 14th. So that's Wednesday night, right? Wednesday night.
Thursday night.
Thursday night. Next Thursday night. All right. We'll know the schedule a week from today.
Watch that.
All right. Thank you, Mark and Largo. See ya. Rob, you're on hold. Go ahead. Thanks for holding.
Hey, Kevin.
What's up, Rob?
The Wizards are going to get the worst possible. Are you here?
I got you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I said I think the Wizards are going to get the worst possible deal. But just a second ago, you was talking about kickers. I had the kid rated from Iowa better because he kicked in more bad weather than
he did.
And I'm talking about cold bad weather.
Yeah.
Than the other kid, and that's the only reason I had him ranked higher. So
yeah, I mentioned, if you go back and watch that Iowa-Oregon game, which was a really good football game in November in the cold and rain, and he booted a 58-yarder in that weather. He was impressive as a kicker, no doubt. And you're right, kicking in Iowa a little bit different than kicking in Gainesville. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Let's go to Lap. Lap, go ahead. Wizards, are you expecting good luck or bad luck Sunday at 3 for the lottery?
Yeah, I'm gonna say bad luck. I've always said all this time, I just think we're gonna get Cam Boozer, or the kid from North Carolina. I just think and like Mark said, they not letting us get the number 1. We got robbed in the Wemby. We got robbed in the Cooper Flag. They just ain't trying to get us. And those are the teams that got fine for tanking. I'm curious to see where they're going to be in the draft, man. But they need to let us get in. And then the Alex Sarr draft, it was 2. But that draft was terrible, Kevin. Like, come on, man. Like, we really need, a breaker. I want AJ. I just don't think realistically. Peterson is nice. I know there's some injury concerns with him. Acuff, man, that boy is bad. So, I'm open. I just still think it's going to be the kid from North Carolina or Boozer. But I've been saying Boozer, for the last year. So we'll see, because I think he'll fit right in with what we have. So
we got lucky in 2010. In 2010, there was a consensus number 1 player, and it was John Wall, and that was a good pick. But, man, it seems like every other year it has been bad luck in the lottery. And last year, I think, was the ultimate bad luck. The Wemby year, we didn't have the same level of shot, I don't think. Last year, certainly a favorite, one of the favorites to get to number 1, and we ended up with number 6. The worst case for Wizard.
We missed about one ping pong ball, though, Kevin. Yeah, I said we missed about one ping pong ball with Wemby, and that was just crazy. And shout out to Sabah, man. I knew she was entering. When I saw that news article about Heinicke, I knew she was waiting to say something about it. But I feel the same way with John Wall. I understand her passion, because I wish John Wall would have stayed here with us, and we could have got rid of Bill a while back. But
thanks, Lap.
We'll see, man. I'm excited, man. And watch them playoffs, Kevin, man. It's going to be good.
Yeah,
have a good weekend, bro.
They've been good. Appreciate it. All right. Monday we'll be back. We'll have mini camp follow-up, see what Dan Quinn says throughout the weekend, and we will know the Wizards' fate in the 2026 June draft. Have a good weekend. Chris is next.